I'm back. I had a nap, and like I said, we're going to continue the conversation. I covered what Ross said earlier in the last video, and like everybody learned in the past week, it got worse.
Most of you have noticed over the last...
Sorry.
I have no doubt most of you have noticed over the last 10 or 11 months I've been a lot happier. Glowing, really, radiant.
Yeah?
You can tell probably just from my voice alone and this striking smile. So what is
Moisturizer?
the secret to this newfound happiness of mine? The one trick doctors don't want you to know? I haven't been online as much. I've been going outside far more...
Here, honestly, that would have been the best plug for his soap brand, his moisturizer, but...
frequently. Spending time in the real world.
I thought it was
And as
moisturizer.
such, I'm sure many of you have noticed over the last 10 or 11 months, internet drama hasn't been a huge focal point of the channel because I haven't seen a whole bunch of it. I haven't kept up with the vast majority of it. And of course, occasionally I've still dipped my tootsies in some of it, like if there's something particularly wacky going on, and I still...
And like, in what's fresh off the top of my head, game drama has included Monster Hunter, Mecha Break, which is really funny though because Mecha Break is releasing July 1st, I believe, in the next couple of days at the time of recording. But one of the funniest things of the drama with, what is it, Mecha Break, was that there was a lot of negative reviews for a alpha beta testing. And I think that's a good thing, to where if people have problems with what the game was doing before its official release, then the developers can work on it. And what's really cool is that after this video, they made a developers... hold on, I think I have that next. I'm looking at the developer Ask Me Anything, so I'm really excited to watch that when we're done here.
still cover like news and crazy shit going on with aliens and all of that kind of thing, or if there's like a really cringe, prankster that got arrested or something, I'll still talk about that. But it's not like a fixation for me like it used to be over the last few years, where I was covering any and all internet creator space hoopla. And I want to keep it that way. I'm having a lot more fun not doing that. That being said,
that's
there is
really
something
fun.
that has unfolded here.
Surprisingly.
That's like the John Wick killing the dog moment that's bringing me back, just very temporarily. And it's PirateSoftware. Yesterday I talked about Stop Killing Games. And there's no way to talk about Stop Killing Games without also mentioning PirateSoftware because of the profound effect he has had on that initiative in its demise. I say demise, but it's not actually fully cooked.
Yeah, it's not really cooked, but it's the fact that, like, because PirateSoftware has such a huge following, your influence matters when it comes to conversations. Just like how when PewDiePie accidentally said the N-word, or he misused that video, it was the domino that started the apocalypse, which is where we had Markiplier yelling at you to have respect with people, and then Sean talking about how people have less respect for others than they do now. And it's even funny to where, like, even within today's standards, it's a really funny situation where nowadays the ability to provide unconditional respect and not going for the throat when people have opposite opinions is wild. Nowadays, people have more accessibility to the internet. They have abilities to pay for their clout, whether it be Path of Exiles or Diablo. And it's really crazy to where we live in a society today where you can pay for clout, and if you don't like the drama that's coming against you, then you can just bully that out of the system.
But it has been on life support, and PirateSoftware did play a big role in that because of 2 videos he made, as well as a stream, shitting all over it.
So excited.
And that's not even doing it justice. He was full-blown tooting on this. He was shitting on it with some fart on top. And a lot of what he was saying about Stop Killing Games wasn't accurate. It was a misrepresentation of the initiative. And the guy behind it, the guy spearheading it, Ross, finally set the record straight on a lot of the misconceptions that PirateSoftware helped to put out there and kind of exacerbate these thought processes that just weren't accurate for what the initiative was actually aiming to do. He finally set the record straight, and I, of course, wanted to talk about it as someone who does actually care about it. Now, as I said, I've been a little
we all care about games, but again, like, this boy talks.
Off the grid. I'm on a fucking farm, so I've been, living off the Lord's land recently, and I've missed a lot of the internet happenings. So Pirate Software's previous anime arcs of drama, like with World of Warcraft, and the one after that, and the one after that, and the one after that, and the one after that.
And I will be saying that Pirate Software made Asmongold so much money because he was covering the whole Warcraft drama, and he has Pirate Software. Thor has a habit of not taking accountability, and Healthy Gamer Dr. K talked to him about that.
I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to. I only got little tiddlywinks, little morsels of lore about it in a few clips, so I never really even understood what was going on there. So Pirate Software's response to everything that happened yesterday really caught me by surprise. That was a subversion of my expectations, bigger than Game of Thrones Season 8.
Yeah, Hutcher, I did. I think it's really hilarious to me that that entire community is so butt mad at me for putting out a video 10 months ago about their stuff and then not being refuted, and now it's my fault that everything is going wrong for them.
Probably my fault for
I cannot
pausing.
believe his ego.
Hold on.
His ego
Refuted. So, 10 months ago, hilarious to me that
my expectations bigger than
Hold on.
Game of Thrones Season 8.
Yeah,
Okay, wait. Do you think they will add can't wait for the updates on end Shiraz or stuff is complete? Wait, okay, what prompted him to even say this? Server.
Hutcher, I did. I think it's really hilarious to me that that entire community is so butt mad at me for putting out a video 10 months ago about their stuff and then not being refuted, and now it's my fault that everything is going wrong for them.
I cannot believe his ego.
Wait,
Not being refuted. 10 months ago, hilarious to me that that entire community is so butt mad at me for putting out a video 10 months ago about their stuff and then not being refuted, and now
not being refuted. We have refuted about you, but I wonder if he's just oblivious to the other people who've refuted what Thor said, because he can either see the clip about him and then ignore it, or
it's my fault that everything is going wrong for them.
I cannot believe his ego. His ego is so out of control, I feel like he's only a week or two away from exclusively referring to himself in third person, like Stone Cold fucking Steve Austin. And that's the truth, because Pirate Software said so. Some shit like that. It's crazy how he's responded. The smugness is nails on a chalkboard. It just makes you feel icky listening to it. And he goes on that same talking point multiple times in the clip about how, I guess I'm fully to blame. I guess because I made those videos 10 months ago, it's my fault entirely that this whole thing crashed and burned. Yep, oh boy. Time to play a sad song on the world's smallest violin for the Stop Killing Games movement, all because Big Bad Pirate Software took it all down by himself. It's crazy. No one's saying that. There is no...
Yeah, because there's no one, because his stance 10 months ago leaves an impact. It's kind of like you taking a dump, taking a dump in somebody's house. They don't know where that dump is, and it won't change the fact that 10 months later, that scat will just fester, and it will make things worse. To where it's still shit in the corner, but it doesn't change the fact that you shat in during the situation. You didn't clean yourself up about it. You didn't talk about it. You didn't explain yourself to where you had understanding, and you left with respect. It just made things worse.
No one out there that is saying it is entirely Pirate Software's fault that Stop Killing Games hasn't been more successful in its endeavors. But there's irrefutable evidence that you had a detrimental effect, a majorly damaging effect on Stop Killing Games because of your misinformation that you spread about it in 2 videos and across all your streams, and not once have you bothered to correct that record. And he has said that it hasn't been refuted in 10 months.
It has been refuted.
That is turbo horseradish. Go to your own comment section on your videos to see everyone refuting you, as well as the innumerable other gamers and voices out there that have taken down those talking points and debunked a lot of them and proven that you just didn't understand it. And that is the big problem. No one hates Pirate Software because he doesn't agree with Stop Killing Games. The reason so many people are angry at him, myself included here, you can disagree with the movement all you want. If you don't like the initiative, I'm not your fucking dad. You make your own choices there. But the reason so many people, myself included, do not like how Pirate Software is handling all this is he is outright refusing to just admit any level of fault that he was...
Yeah, because it's really funny because I keep thinking about that poop analogy, and I find it to be really strong. PirateSoftware made a video 10 months ago and also a stream a little after that. The fact that he forgot that he makes content people listen to, or he forgets that is how the internet works. To where, I don't know why this is the right time to be that much of a villain to make content, because the kind of content you're making is of people saying how wrong you are.
Wrong about anything, and that couldn't be more clear from these clips as well as his tweets that he's made. It's actually his tweets that really sent me off the fucking rails here, off my gourd. Let's start with this little nugget here that he deleted from last night. So he tweeted directly at...
Sup, I put out 2 videos disagreeing with your initiative and haven't talked about it since. Now your initiative has failed and you're blaming me for 33 minutes of the hour-long video covering it. Your community is out in force shitting up our stream and socials with hate messages, threats, and snide comments. We watched the same video, right? We watched the same video, right?
You might be thinking, okay, so some YouTuber got something wrong on the internet. So what? See, that was my thinking too. The problem is how incredibly influential this YouTuber has been.
Yeah, because if you think that his impact from 10 months ago doesn't mean anything, what do these mean? These are headlines, these are thumbnails, these are people who talked about it, and you're telling me that your shitpost didn't matter?
Remember that list of coverage on the campaign? Well, best I can tell, Thor's coverage has been bigger than literally anyone else on those lists, except Asmongold. And the only video Asmongold had on this bigger than Thor's was about Thor's video. So for all practical purposes, Thor here has been the #1 voice on the campaign, and he's been lying about what it is. That's a bit loaded, though. In this case, I'm using the second definition of lie. I have no evidence it's the first. This video came out right as we were building momentum, then except for one boost in Germany, the signature...
Well, that's the point, that's just kind of how it is. But anyways. Since you're so setting on cutting up my response into pieces to try and make it seem unhinged, I'm going to drop my videos here to show the actual context. There is also a massive pinned FAQ on the first video you can read through to see my reasoning. Here's the thing. The fact that you deleted this, there is something to be said if you deleted this post. And it's loud. It was so picked up. The sound of you shooting down this post was so loud that you ended up on Phil DeFranco's news coverage. It's so loud that people are talking about you and Stop Killing Games. If you're gonna hate me, at least hate me for what I'm actually saying. And there's recorded proof of what you're actually saying. So what's going on here? The only engagement I've seen is that level-headed has been for Louis Rossman. His video breaks down what I disliked and try to meet me in the middle with a conversation that made sense. I engaged with him on the video as screenshotted below. Fine talking to people that are level-headed and about this. The fact that is level-headed. The fact that you are segregating people with the line saying that these are people that are level-headed and these aren't, that itself is hurtful language, kind of like. I'm fine talking to people that are level-headed about this and can have a conversation, but to be real, every time you've been involved, your orbiters turn shit toxic instantly and set me off. It sets me off. Your community is rabid and it's shit to deal with for anyone on the other side of the argument. And again, the problem with this argument are people who aren't willing to listen, who make points where it's a statement, not a question. And if you make questions and if you speak to things with perspective of wonder and just learn, then you might have a different response. Why do you think I haven't talked about it in 10 months? About this, why do you think we ought to mute anyone bringing it up on chat? It's rage bait and shit flinging the entire time. You disagree with the movement. God.
At Ross, the guy behind Stop Killing Games, talking about how he made those videos 10 months ago, and since then, his community's been nothing but hateful. A scourge. A fucking tyrannid threat that he must destroy. Your community is fucking rabid, and it's shit to deal with for anyone on the other side of the argument. Why do you think I haven't talked about this shit in 10 months? Why do you think we auto-mute anyone bringing it up in chat? Because it's been rage bait and shit flinging the entire time. And just goes on about like how he is the victim of Ross's toxic, terrible community, which is hilariously hypocritical coming from PirateSoftware, when in his videos and his streams, he makes it very clear and is very rude about how much he dislikes not only Ross, but the movement. And it's not like he's being very professional and polite about it, buttoned up. Listen to it.
So this was my first encounter of it.
Oh shit, no, this is actually really dumb. It's used car salesman garbage. This is shit.
What do you mean used car salesman?
Not only do I not want to back this, I'm going to actively tell people not to. That is awful. That is a horrible goddamn direction.
What?
That's awful, dude. No, eat my entire ass. Ditful. It's shit.
Wait, what?
Professional and polite about it, buttoned up. Listen to it.
So this was my first encounter of it.
Oh shit, no, this is
Wait, what?
actually really dumb. It's used car salesman garbage.
Are you talking about the movement being a used car salesman garbage?
This is shit. It's shit. Not only do I not want to back this, I'm going to actively tell
Where's
people not
this coming from?
That is awful. That is a horrible goddamn direction. That's awful, dude. No, eat my entire ass. The level of stupid that I just had to receive was like sitting on Twitter for 12 hours. This shit sucks. That's a really stupid
What do
ass
you mean
move.
sucks?
That's an incredibly stupid ass move. I think this is ass. This is complete garbage.
Reasons. If you're talking about this slide being the reason why the ECI could pass, politicians like easy wins. They don't care about video games, which they often don't. Politicians are of an age group of 60, 70, 80 above that don't have the same viewpoints as those that are fighting about this. Oftentimes, the loudest people in conversations are these politicians who've made a name for themselves, and because of that name, that aura, those are the louder comments than us people who just like work at the 9 to 5. Already unclear this practice is really unclear because like the digital media space is it's really difficult to do that. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It's really unclear.
Bitch. All of this can eat shit then. I dropped the mask entirely. I have no qualms about that. They can eat my entire ass. The whole thing.
This
That
is
stupid
not
shit.
great.
Yeah, I'm sure it's Ross and his community that are actually the assholes here. Brother, come on, you can't possibly be calling the wambulance with a side of French cries here about people being mean to you when you are literally the one that started the shit-flinging and name-calling. And by the way, Ross never even addressed this for 10 months because he didn't want to dilute the initiative into just having it be boiled down to drama between creators, which I think was actually very big of him. The only reason he's talking about it now is because it's at the end of its life, and so many people still don't understand it because of someone like PirateSoftware misrepresenting it. So he's finally setting the record straight there. Anyway, he did delete that tweet, but just a little while ago.
Been reading through all the posts. Tons of people will call me a liar or that I misrepresent the initiative. Dogpiling on this to get their pound of flesh. You go through what an initiative is, how it's... Okay, that's true. Thank you for talking about what an initiative. Of course it's not a law. And you know this text does not represent what you were shitposting earlier. That does not represent everything of this crash out earlier.
Ago, he made a new tweet, a very long tweet, as well as a series of tweets under it in regards to this whole thing. And in all these words, all this mumbo jumbo, not once does he say he was wrong about anything. In fact, he just continues to double down, even proudly stating he is doubling down.
For those that will scream, he's doubling down, yes, he is. I give a shit about this initiative and what it means for games. What do you mean you give a shit about this initiative and what it means for developers and players in the future? What is that supposed to mean?
Wow, how incredibly noble, doubling down on things you are provably, blatantly wrong about. We don't need to hit the Jumbotron for the replay on yesterday's video going over so many of the things that he was incorrect about in regards to the initiative, but the point is, that is an issue that I really thought that he would address. Be like, hey, yeah, I did get this part wrong. You're right, guys. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to misrepresent it. I still don't fully agree with it, but I do recognize that I had some errors here in my coverage. That's what I was expecting. That is not what we got.
No.
And it prompted me to reach out directly to him, to talk to him, to see, like, why isn't he acknowledging that? Is there a reason? Like, what is going on there? So I did. He made it very clear he was not very happy with my coverage of Stop Killing Games, which is fine. I think that's totally fine. I'm not going to leak DMs or really go in depth on our private conversation, but the point of me reaching out to him was to talk about his refusal to acknowledge that he did, maybe unintentionally, misrepresent Stop Killing Games, and it led to a just shy of 2 hours, like, circular argument that ultimately got us nowhere. He was more focused on his qualms with Stop Killing Games and really liked to challenge me to prove him wrong about some of his hang-ups with it. And when I would mention, like, the behavior aspect, like, hey, you did misrepresent it, and I'd give him a timestamp, he'd then instead say how I'm wrong for thinking that he misrepresented it. We got nowhere.
Wait, you're wrong for... Wait, wrong for
I
what?
want to just timestamp, he'd then instead say how I'm wrong for thinking that he misrepresented.
Wrong for thinking. That is a loud red flag to where he rather than, you have to expound and make an understanding of, like, why did you have to, like, if someone tells you, like, this shit is blue, you have to ask the question of, okay, why do you feel this way, and have a conversation, not do that.
We got nowhere. So I want to just stamp, he'd then instead say how I'm wrong for thinking that he
You're
misrepresented
wrong
it.
for
We got nowhere. So I want to just...
It's one thing to say you're wrong for thinking that pineapple does not belong in pizza. It's like saying you're wrong for believing that water is essential, but to not expound on it?
Publicly say this again. There are plenty of things you can disagree with when it comes to the Stop Killing Games initiative. I'll put links to it if you want to learn more about it. You can form your own opinions on it if you want to support it. If you don't like it, that's fine. That's super normal.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't reach out to try and champion that PirateSoftware should become, a huge ambassador of Stop Killing Games, out there on the fucking front lines fighting for it. It had nothing to do with that. It was simply about the misunderstanding that he showcased, maybe unintentionally, and the misrepresentation of it that he broadcast, again, maybe unintentionally, which has in turn, over the course of 10 months, misled people on what the fuck Stop Killing Games even is in the first place, which I found to be a problem because he's never even acknowledged that as something that has happened. And because he refuses to acknowledge that, and anyone that even, like, tiptoes around that subject, he kind of treats as though they're fucking idiots, like me, for thinking that he's misrepresented something. Now, he did...
The moment you lash out is an indication that you're misrepresenting it to begin with, honestly. Like,
he just posted a tweet where
whack.
he said he talked to me and Josh Strife Hayes, and in that tweet, this will prove how useless our conversation was, unfortunately, there's not a single peep about misrepresenting what Stop Killing Games was about. It's more so about how the public just does...
Just talk to Charlie and Josh about it. If you're mad at me for being a dick, I get that, I'm sorry. Shouldn't have lashed out, but I had an emotional response due to how important this subject is. I've been in a constant battle with people online for nearly a decade, trying to inform them how difficult it is to make and release video games. Okay, then, but the conversation with Stop Killing Games is about the consumers. It's not about the developers and how they have to deal with it. You're not the only developer who's making video games. You have to also understand the fact that the first line is to stop the practice of killing games and to... Oh, God. Does he have it? He should have it. The first line that this initiative brings with is to leave said video game in a functional, playable state. That is the argument regarding this is asking developers to leave things at a functional, playable state. But this is a conversation about, but like a developer, not PirateSoftware, can just drop it and move on to the next project. It's about that conversation. When I'm bringing up issues with leaving online only games, when I bring up the issues with leaving online only games in a functional, playable state after sunsetting, I'm always met with responses diminishing the efforts needed to do that. What? It's not a simple hurdle for overcoming, and exactly why I don't like the initiative. You can't leave these challenges up to a figure-it-out mentality, and you can't diminish the work of those devs' side just because you want your way. Wait, what? You can't leave the challenges up to figure it out. That's exactly what we can say. People who come from a figure-it-out mentality are those who don't know what it takes. And if you just educated what would it take to sunset a game, then talk about what it would take. Like, even Final Fantasy 14 made a statement to where, like, some of the dungeons, you can just use a duty support system and not use the online features to complete these dungeons. You can play Monster Hunter Wilds offline, and it has support hunters, of which allows you to play the game by yourself at your own pace with NPCs with you instead of the online features, where technically, like, it's but when it comes to movements like this showcase to me how little the general public understands about development, modern gaming, architecture, and online games as a whole. You're beating the horse about online games. This is about the general conversation of games. Online games are a fraction of the umbrella video games. But all the news that I've experienced about him and about the movement as a consumer has been his horse beating of online games. Online games are, you can't do this to online only games. Online games. What does a functional playable state look like for an online only game? Look at Mega Man X Dive. They shut down the online servers, but they then released the same game in an offline package to where it's feature complete. You can play it with all the features for $30, and here you go. There is Monster Hunter Worlds, to where it is now a feature complete game. They stopped updating it. You can play the game offline and still experience the intended experience. You have a lot of examples to combat the conversation of what he's going for, of what he's standing on, and it's rough. Moon's like, if you want all video games to be left in a functional playable state, then you need to listen to people when they talk about how infeasible that will be in a lot of situations. Sure, that is true, but Thor needs to listen about the other, a lot of situations that can do that, because you're hyper focused on online games during the entire conversation that we just watched in the last video.
Doesn't understand game development, and it kind of reads to me like we're all just too stupid to understand it from his side of things. Our conversation basically amounted to toilet paper, unfortunately. Again, I was focused on, you have done this, maybe unintentionally, you should at least say that you have, or, like, you know, are you aware that you did this? And then it became more of like, nope, I didn't. You're wrong. And then he...
Like, I understand, but no, it's more like Thor listened, Thor talked with you and engaged with you, but he never made the attempt to take things from the conversation. He was willing to make an input. That's to understand, as a child of somebody who has a similar personality, it reads to where, in that tweet, where he came to a conversation, he gave things, but he didn't take with him stuff that they were talking about. You can come and go from conversations, and he didn't come back with anything. He went to the conversation with his inputs, and my father would make this argument like about my mom at the same time, because my mom's also in a really bad situation too, where she would come, him and my mom would go to a conversation like this, and all he would do is give his viewpoint, but for him there's nothing to take away, because he is so doubled down that he's done nothing wrong, but he comes to expound on what his standpoint is, and he comes to talk about things, but he doesn't leave with things to take away.
Start of this for something that was not even the focus. Didn't. You're wrong. And then he uses our conversation at the start of this for something that was not even the focus. I was not there to try and convince him to be part of Stop Killing Games. I don't think we made any ground on, like, his perspective versus mine on Stop Killing Games. He has some qualms about how difficult it would be in certain cases. I agree with that, for sure. I still think overall Stop Killing Games is a net positive for the gaming industry, where something desperately needs to change with a lot of these awful practices. But for the 10 millionth time in the last 2.5 hours, it was just about him having this awareness that his coverage did mislead people, and that he, maybe not maliciously or anything, misunderstood or misrepresented Stop Killing Games in numerous instances, and the way that he talked about Ross was unacceptable. That at least made it into the tweet there about the way he talked about Ross being like a fucking used car salesman type deal, and like calling everything about it ass. He at least recognized that that was too harsh, so he gave a quick I'm sorry for that, which is good. I do appreciate that, and I'm sure Ross will appreciate that as well, I imagine. But I still wanted to make this video after the conversation because I just really do not understand, I truly cannot wrap my head around why he fights tooth and nail, coming for throats for anyone that tries to mention that there was misrepresentation in his coverage of the Stop Killing Games initiative. He is so hell-bent on proving he's right and everyone else is wrong that's saying these things.
It's even dumber to where even if he's wrong, he won't admit that he's wrong. That's the problem, to where he may feel like he may acknowledge, oh, I'm sorry this hurt you. I'm sorry that what I said you disagreed with. But then he doesn't expound beyond that. From the tweet alone, it doesn't really feel like he's reflective. It's literally a conversation where you're talking to a brick wall, where the wall is a wall. There's nothing to change about that. But oftentimes, you want to go into a conversation like looking at a mirror, to where if you start to notice and acknowledge things that you have said wrong. He doesn't acknowledge it. He understands that what he said hurts people, but he doesn't acknowledge that some of that came from him. It's kind of like looking at a mirror and finding out that there's a pimple. You start noticing the pimples and you acknowledge it, but like you can do something about it. But Thor is making no leeway in just saying, hey, I should rethink what I said.
I just don't get it. He's just treating it like he's got the mega mind, once in a generation galaxy brain that no one can possibly understand. All us plebeians are beneath him, and we're lucky that he even graces us with streams, and we're stupid for thinking that he did anything wrong here in regards to his coverage of Stop Killing Games and what it's actually about. It's just so odd to me. Because if he would just come out and be like, yeah, you know what, looking back on it, really reflecting, hearing what you guys are saying, I can see why this was so misleading for so many people. I didn't mean for it to be, and yeah, maybe I misunderstood some of these things. This would not have been nearly as big of a deal as it has turned into. And I went back and looked at some of his previous dramas, I suppose, and that is a common thread with PirateSoftware. Like in World of Warcraft, he made a mistake, but he completely refused to acknowledge the mistake, and it made it a much bigger snowball into an avalanche for him, which led to a ton of other problems. He just has this inability to, like, accept that he can make mistakes. Like, he does things wrong sometimes, and he needs to recognize that it's okay to be like, yeah, I did do that wrong. You're right, I was incorrect in this. And it would save so much of a headache. But he just comes across as a narcissist. He really does, unfortunately. Like,
you can see that interview with Dr. K on Healthy Gamer GG, I think. But it's really funny to where even Dr. K, it almost feels like when PirateSoftware left the conversation with Dr. K, like, it feels like nothing changed, even after talking about it and, like, taking away the layers of those arguments.
Like, I'm not an armchair Reddit psychologist here going to diagnose him as a narcissist or anything, but, like, that's what it comes across as. He just refuses to admit that he ever does anything incorrectly. It admits no faults of his own, ever. Except, I suppose, to Ross here, which maybe this is the beginning of a big character development for PirateSoftware. He did apologize to Ross for how he treated him and what he said about him. I think that's great. would love to see that same kind of energy for understanding where people like myself are coming from with your coverage of Stop Killing Games and why people feel the way they do about what's happened since with your responses.
It honestly feels like a situation where as somebody who has experience with a person that has that personality, it almost feels like, yes, Thor did apologize in the tweet to, where was the tweet? He apologized to Thor, but it does, like, but I can almost guarantee, does he feel, hold on, what is it right here? Okay, wait, hold on, where's the other one? Okay. Because that's just the biggest thing to where he may have apologized to Ross, and I'm concerned that does Thor think that by apologizing to Ross, it absolves him of everything, to where he's going to be in a stream to where he's saying, hey, why are you bringing this up again? I already apologized to Ross. We talked about it. Please stop talking about this conversation. I'm done with it. I apologize to him. Please stop. I apologize to him. Please stop. But what about all the other people that you've hurt? Because it's a concern to where if Thor believes that by saying he apologized, does that also absolve him for everything else? No. It's a concern to where people don't believe that PirateSoftware is going to take accountability for what he said. But again, that's just my two cents about it. We won't know what will happen until Asmongold probably talks about it, until maybe more people talk about the Pirate Kill games. There's also Mudahar that talked about it, so I might look at it later at another time. But yeah, this shit's crazy, and I don't know why PirateSoftware will double down on his opinions. But yeah, that's the video. I should probably be making an addendum to where I should have actually looked at the comments. Like, the comments tell a lot. Like over here, Ross made a response to the video, to the post. Thanks again for the coverage. You're 100% on point that the frustration wasn't him being against the initiative, but the misrepresentation. If only Thor made the attempts to have a conversation about the misrepresentation, like he often talks about. Oh God. Regarding the 10 months delay, your explanation is also completely on point. During that time, I was talking to the members of the European Union Parliament, looking at possible promotion deals with GOG and later Heineken. Okay. Not only is diving into the internet drama not something I particularly enjoy, but I could also absolutely see that turning off all of these big organizations and saw it as a liability. Of course, because it's a situation where if a large organization is a part of a drama, they risk being looked at differently. They risk taking a stand at a certain position, to where ultimately, if you don't, the only good person in an argument is a person who doesn't say anything, and people would rather not be talked about than be a part of a conversation. I absolutely prefer to take the high road if I could and get the signatures, but by just getting more exposure. If we had gotten signatures, I never would have made these response videos. Also, did release a video with the days addressing all of his points, almost 40, to inform people without calling him out, but that didn't have much leg. SKG is simply at its core, but gets complex when you dive into the details, and you have a lot of issues that can't be quickly explained in one sentence. So absolutely a balancing act. So it's absolutely a balancing act trying to tell people what it is, what it's what it's about, and addressing the specifics without putting us to sleep. It's really hard. Jiggle, 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 jiggle. It's really hard to keep people part of the conversation if they tune themselves out. Because oftentimes when people tune themselves out is because they don't understand or they feel ignorant. It's a situation where people often leave conversations mentally if they're not engaged. It's really rough. The conversation about it is extremely rough. But yeah, what else was over here? This person believes what I believe. I grew up with narcissistic parents. When I first started getting PirateSoftware videos in my feed months ago, I didn't think much of it, but over time he just irked me in a way I couldn't place. Like, too full of himself. He's too confident. It sounds like, from a narcissist, in my experience, narcissists put themselves in positions to where they have to double down on certain topics to where in my experience, the belief is that if I am wrong here, where else have I been wrong? And that hurts them so much that they're gonna, the more that it's kind of like a line. And if this segment breaks to where, oh, I was wrong, and I admit that I was wrong, it's gonna make the rest of the bridge fall to where, like, that's the kind of impression that I'm getting from my experience as someone with a narcissistic parent, to where he has to double down, or it feels like if Thor does not double down, then it feels like for him everything that he stood for has no foundation. It ruins the foundation of everything else that he says, and that's not honestly true. Taking accountability can be a strong solution for a weak foundation. And I saw less and less of him and actually forgot he existed. So to see this now pop up in my feed, I'm having a moment of when you dislike someone but can't even say why, and then they end up doing something proving you were right all along moment. And I realize now because I subconsciously recognize the behavior I spent too many years around. People like him will never ever apologize about their mistakes and own up to it. That is the problem with him and his type of personality, to where it's a constant example to where he is in belief where, much like my parent, much like my mom, which I talked about before in the channel, they feel so vindicated, so charged on their position to things, that if they admit that they're wrong, the rest of the foundation and the thought that if I'm wrong here, where else have I been wrong, that kind of thought process will crumble any foundation that they would have currently had as an individual, as someone with a voice in the system. To where if a narcissistic parent crumbles like that, in my experience, in their head, it would take twice the effort to build up that foundation, and they just don't want to do it. I have a confident belief that people with his mindset feel like if they acknowledge that they're wrong, the foundation that they've built up is going to take twice the amount of work, and they don't want to make that work. But that's my opinion. You can let me know if I'm wrong, but that's my experience.